Topic B, strings. So let's start with asking, well, what are strings? A string is a sequence of characters which is enclosed in a single or double quotation marks. So we haven't covered arrays or lists yet, but you can basically, if you're familiar with what an array is, it's an array of characters. So here's an example. So as you can see, if you type into the interactive shell a string with double quotes, it comes out a string with single quotes. So Python takes single quotes as a default, but it treats them pretty much the same. The reason why you may want to use doubles in combination with singles is you can get away without using like an escape character for apostrophe s. So like if you say Kevin's, instead of ending that string when you define it, you're still going to be able to close the final string with double quotation marks. You can also use triple quotation marks to generate multi-line strings. So some basic string operations. Strings can be added to other strings. You can use the plus sign to add 3 or 2 or however many strings together. I plus love plus Python equals to I love Python. Strings can be multiplied. So let's say you have a string Bob, and that's saved in the variable name. You multiply it by 5, you get Bob, 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 Bob. Strings can be iterated much like numbers. So that's like, remember, like counter equals the counter plus 1 or counter plus equals 1. Well, we have name, which is from the previous one, which is Bob. And you can say Bob plus equals cool. Bob equals to Bob plus cool, which means that we add this new string to whatever exists, and you have that as a result. Okay, so let's get a practical look inside PyCharm. Hello. In this little tutorial, we're going to look at some string examples. Mainly, I will look to demonstrate adding strings, concatenation, iterating strings, and multiplying strings. So I initially prepared for this during the Christmas break, so the examples I wrote down had a Christmas theme, so I'm going to stick with that. So let's say we have a little string that says Mary, and that string saved in variable A. We have another string that says Christmas, and that's saved in variable B. Now we can add those. Let's say we make another variable, message equals to A plus B. And we can print message. We run this, it'll print Merry Christmas. So in this example, you notice how these are sort of glued together and we need a space. Well, you can use concatenation to add the space there. So you could plus a space and then add B after adding the space. So you run this, Christmas has a space. So let's now look at maybe iterating our message. So iterating means like message equals to message plus something. We can add an exclamation mark. Oh, of course we didn't print it, but then we can print message. So just as another example, you don't have to iterate by writing message equals to message plus. There's a shorthand way, and some of you are probably familiar with this already. You could have written message plus equals to exclamation mark. This works exactly the same way. In fact, when I print this, it's going to have 2 exclamation marks. So what else? I said we were going to multiply the message. And that's probably the easiest. You can create another variable, or you can just multiply it out with a print statement. So you can say print message times 5, run it, it'll say Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Or you could have basically created something else, like long message equals to message times, and then you could have printed the long message. That works. That should make exactly the same result. Okay, so these are some examples of basic string operation. We did addition, which is also known as concatenation. We did iteration and multiplication. All right, let's have a look at string indexing. Now, every character in a string has an index. Basically, in an index is a counter starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of every single character in the string. So here's an example. So we have a string that says Python is fun. The count for the first character is 0, and that is capital P. Second one, 1, and that is Y. The last one, 12, that's the 13th character, is N. Notice how spaces themselves are characters. So that one has an index of 6, and that one has an index of 9. What else is interesting is that you can count the index backwards. So that means that you can access the very last character. Just like the first one is always 0, the very last one is always -1. So if you say, like if Python is fun was saved as a string and the string was S, if you did S square brackets -1, you would be accessing this letter N. If you did -13, you'd be accessing capital P, the first letter.